always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany a worry or two. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Do you remember that novelty song from some years back, Don't Worry, Be Happy? Focus on it. But don't worry about it this hour. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Van Morrison, Domino, and Eric Clapton and Layla, Ease My Worried Mind. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. One of the very best definitions came in an article in the March 1988 issue of New Woman magazine. Writer Toby Sullivan pretty well hit the nail on the head when she wrote, and I quote, "Worry addresses the future. Regret pertains to the past." Unquote. We become so muddled in day-to-day living, worrying about things we have no means of controlling, that the precious time we do have, which is right now, is wasted. It was Benjamin Franklin who said, "Lost time is never found again." We also waste time in worrying about things that will never come to pass. And even knowing that, we still let our worries take over. This hour, some worry lines with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Lady Antebellum and Need You Now, and Linda Ronstadt with Blue Bayou. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. One of the most powerful books ever written on the subject was published a very long time ago. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie, published by Simon & Schuster. The book is a classic and always in print. Worth looking for if you find worry to be a constant companion. But you don't even need to read a self-help book. You can be the author of the one that helps quell the little nagging worries. Randy Wayne White from Outside wrote, and I quote, "A journal is more than a memory code. It's therapeutic. The act of opening a notebook to put words down stills the cross currents of worry, drawing to focus the essential thought patterns that best define us, intersecting those thoughts with the condition of our life at that exact moment. A journal is one of the few anchors the human condition allows us." Unquote. Randy Wayne White from Outside. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Eagles and The Best of My Love, and David Gates and Bread with Diary. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Remember when you came to your parents with your childhood worries? Bruce Lansky and Ken Jones assembled some of the advice that fathers have passed on to their offspring through the years. The book they put together was called Fathers Say the Dumbest Things. For example, this one line, "Don't worry, it's only blood." Unquote. The other side of the coin is this. It comes from an unknown author and was printed in the Hallmark edition collection, The Beauty of Motherhood. And again I quote, "A mother is underpaid, has long hours, and gets very little rest. She worries too much about her children, but she says she doesn't mind at all. And no matter how old her children are, she still likes to think of them as her little babies." Unquote. Now, both are generalizations, but both are developed from a kernel of truth. We've learned from our own experiences, and parents today share equal responsibility for the worries of their children. And the worries will follow us right through life. I'm Don Jackson from iTunes and CHFI.com. Phil Collins and Take Me Home. Lonestar, I'm Already There. And the Jets, and You Got It All Over Him. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. D.L. Stewart from McNaught Syndicate some years back wrote, "Courage is bringing a child into the world, feeding him and clothing him, caring for him and worrying about him, disciplining him and educating him, preparing him to the best of your ability for the life he is going to lead, and then letting him live it." Unquote. D.L. Stewart from McNaught Syndicate. And Robert McNeil in Wordstruck, published by Viking, wrote, and I quote, "From my mother came the idea that going down to the sea repaired the spirit. That is where she walked when she was sad or worried or lonely for my father. If she had been crying, she came back composed. If she had left angry with us, she returned in good humor. So we naturally believed that there was a cleansing effect to be had. That letting the fresh wind blow through your mind and spirits, as well as your hair and clothing, purged black thoughts. That contemplating the ceaseless motion of the waves calmed a raging spirit." Unquote. Robert McNeil from Wordstruck, published by Viking. And P.J. O'Rourke from All the Trouble in the World, published by Grove Atlantic, with an interesting thought, and I quote, "Worrying is less work than doing something to fix the worry. This is especially true if we're careful to pick the biggest possible problems to worry about. Everybody wants to save the earth. Nobody wants to help Mom do the dishes." Unquote. P.J. O'Rourke from All the Trouble in the World. I'm Don Jackson from iTunes and CHFI.com. McMaster and James, and Love Wins Every Time, and Whitney Houston, and I Look to You. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. James D. Friedman, president of Dartmouth College at the time that this quote was made, said, "Everywhere we look, the world urges us to turn on the radio or TV, make a phone call, see a movie. Many of us, I fear, worry that if left alone with our thoughts and feelings, we may discover we do not make very good company for ourselves." Unquote. James D. Friedman, and a very real truth. I've always liked this powerful piece of advice. Diane Ackerman, in a slender thread published by Random House, wrote, and I quote, "As anyone setting out on a walk knows, it's hard to empty your mind of worry, analyzing, and hurting. Your agitations travel with you, and you rehearse dreaded or hoped-for conversations. But if you can, give yourself a mental vacation. Leave home all the worries, hurts, and misgivings. Then you can set off to enjoy the sensations of being alive, the beauty of light, the bird calls, the wind and sun on your face. Freed from the commotions of your mind, you can allow yourself to be the photographic plate on which the world etches itself." Unquote. Diane Ackerman, in a slender thread published by Random House. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.